Good evening.
State election, that's all it's about, but we do the same thing, a legally non-conforming situation.
Let's get started.
As-built, then first you meet your building code, safety code.
So we can take extra 7 minutes at the end now? Okay.
That's a good program.
Well, good evening to all, and thank you for coming here. Do we have a quorum at this time?
We do.
Thank you. Thank you, David. So I call this meeting to order of Peninsula Clean Energy Executive Board, and I am not Supervisor Dave Pine, nor that I'm Jeff, because both of them are out today for some other businesses, and they have asked me, and it's my privilege to fill in as your chairman today. So I hope you will all cooperate with me, and if you see any mistakes, it'll be okay. All right, so let's start with the roll call, please.
Hi, everyone. If you could please state your name when I read your jurisdiction. County of San Mateo.
Jim Megamire is alternate for Supervisor Pine.
Okay.
Supervisor Pine, not Supervisor Groom. All right, I'll let her know.
County of San Mateo. Town of Atherton.
Rick DeGolia.
City of Belmont.
Greg Scholes.
City of Brisbane. City of Burlingame.
Ann Kegren, alternate.
Town of Colma.
Joe Silva.
City of Daly City. City of East Palo Alto. City of Foster City.
Catherine Mahampur for Gary Pollard.
City of Half Moon Bay. Town of Hillsborough.
Liz Cullinan for Larry May.
City of Menlo Park. City of Millbrae.
Wayne Lee.
City of Pacifica.
John Keener.
Town of Portola Valley. City of Redwood City. City of San Bruno.
Marty Medina.
City of San Carlos.
Ron Collins, sitting in for Cameron Johnson.
City of San Mateo.
Rick Bonilla, alternate.
City of South San Francisco.
Pradeep Gupta.
And Town of Woodside.
Daniel Yost.
Great. Thank you all.
Do we have a quorum?
Yes, you have 14, you need 12.
All right, okay. Lucky us.
That would be a yes.
All right, we are going to set the agenda for today. And Jen, there was a change in the agenda today, the order of items. Yeah, that would be good. It seems like that we have a presentation, which is item number 6, and it will be made by Avana. And we have been requested to move that item up so they don't have to wait that long, all the way to item 6. So we are going to put that on number 2, rank number 2. So after the first item, we'll put item 6, and then we'll follow the order as normal. Okay. So the first item on the agenda, as I see, unless it's changed, Jan, it's you. You're going to make our report.
Actually, yes.
We do? All right.
Well, if there's any public comment or something.
Any public comments? I didn't see any cards here. No? So I don't see any public comments. So we're going to go into the agenda itself.
And then if you could please have a motion to approve the amended agenda and the consent.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
So the motion was made by Mr. Yost and seconded by Rick. Everyone in support, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? The motion passes unanimously, so we will follow the revised agenda. So now we'll go with report from the CEO, Jan.
Okay, thanks. Okay. Can you hear me? Yes?
Welcome, everyone. We have a lot of alternates here tonight. Guess it must be summertime, huh? But I'm glad to have you here and have a few things to report on tonight. First of all is that we're hiring. We have 3 job postings out right now. One is for a Director of Marketing and Public Affairs. The second is for a Board Clerk / Executive Assistant to the CEO. And the third is for a Director of Power Resources and Energy Programs, which we're just posting tonight. So if you know of anyone who's interested in those positions, or if you can spread the word, please do, so that we have a great group of candidates to make those selections from. And then we'll be putting out additional job postings over the next couple of weeks for a finance manager, community outreach manager, key accounts manager, and a solar / energy programs coordinator. So the organization, actually, can we go to the next slide? This is kind of tiny to see, but this is the overall organization that we're shooting for in the long run. And it will change as appropriate based on the people that we bring in, but this is kind of what we're envisioning. We reviewed this with the executive board. And did I review this with the full board too? Have you seen this before? No. Okay. So basically we'd have 4 different areas: finance and administration, marketing and public affairs, power resources and energy programs, and general counsel and regulatory legislative items. So that's what we're aiming for in the long run. So right now we've got about 6 or 7 key positions to fill. The next,
Actually, just on the slide, what would you see as sort of the next round of priority beyond the 3 that are posted?
the 4 that I announced, so community outreach, key accounts, and energy programs, and then and finance. After that, it kind of depends on who we bring in. So once we get that first group in, it's like where do we have holes? Because we're a startup, people wear many different hats and do lots of different things, and we'll see what we get. So excited to. I know that we've received a number of applications already for the marketing and the board clerk position, according to HR.
Great.
So we're running those job postings through the county, although they are not county positions. Oh, thanks. Let's see. The next thing to report on is the power supply. At our last meeting, we reported that we were going to be negotiating the next week with the top 3 suppliers. So we did. I sent an email out to all of you. The 3 that we signed agreements with, the master agreements with, were Direct Energy, Constellation, and Shell. And then based on the pricing that we got, we went forward with Direct Energy and signed a confirmation with them for the conventional energy, renewable energy, and greenhouse gas-free energy. And then you'll hear more about resource adequacy tonight. The other big item we talked about at our last board meeting was the bank loans. And so the money has been flowing. We got a $12 million loan from Barclays, and we have taken our first draw from them for $3 million. We also got a loan from the county for $6 million for collateral for that $12 million loan. So we have gone ahead and posted $1.5 million as the 50% collateral for the $3 million Barclays loan. And then we also posted $1 million collateral at Wilmington, which is our lockbox bank, for the security deposit for our electric service providers. So we're all set to start business. So talking about starting business, the first customer notifications will be sent out on Monday. And we have a copy of the letters for all of you so that you can see what the notifications are that are going out. On Monday, the English versions will be going out. On July 20th, we'll be sending out English and Spanish to those communities where we're sending bilingual notices. On the 25th, we'll be sending out additional English, Spanish, and then on the 27th, we'll be sending out English, Chinese. So the communities, we basically looked at the percentage of the population that spoke a language other than English at home, and for those communities where it was pretty much close to 15% or more, then we sent out both the English and the other language. So for Daly City, we're sending out, Daly City's not here today. They're getting English and Spanish, San Mateo, English and Spanish. Same with Redwood City, South City, San Bruno, Menlo Park, and Half Moon Bay, and Brisbane, Colma, and East Palo Alto. And the English Chinese is going to Foster City, Millbrae, and Hillsborough. And the ones that I didn't name are only getting English. So
Jen,
hopefully,
a question. These notices will be sent to only the customers who will be part of phase one, or
Yes.
the generic?
so this is just for the phase one customers. And you're also getting a map for your city that shows kind of the general location for the residential customers that are in the 20% that are in this first phase one. So phase one is all small and medium commercial, municipal accounts, and 20% of the residential. So we were attempting as best as we could to kind of group the residential together, and I think we did a relatively good job. So, and hopefully you know your cities well enough that you can just kind of tell where the dots are and where exactly those are, because we kind of merged a few different files together to be able to come up with this.
Jen, also, early adopters, is the information for early adopters?
Early adopters can sign up through the website, and our updated website is being launched on Monday.
Okay.
Our call center is starting up on Monday. So that 800 or 866 number you see in the letter, call that on Monday.
Okay.
Otherwise, I think you're going to get Kirsten. Is that right? Where does it go right now? If
It
you,
was mine, and now I think you're just going to get a blank tone.
yeah. So it's we're going live on all of this on Monday.
Jen, one more question was, does that also include the commercial customers for phase one commercial customers?
Yes, the small and medium commercial. So they're not shown on your map, but you probably know where those are. But we're also handing out to you, specific to your city, a set of worksheets. And we'll talk about this more actually when we get to the marketing part. So we'll go over that 6-page worksheet at that point, and we are asking you to do some work tonight with that worksheet. But you have a little time till we get there. On the regulatory front, we sent a letter a couple days ago to the California Public Utilities Commission asking that they start a formal proceeding to look at the PCEA, which is the Power Charge Indifference Adjustment, basically the exit fee that all of our customers have to pay. There was a meeting today at the PUC about that, and not exactly sure where that came out.
Well, there was a email
Were you there?
from, no, I was not there, but there was an email from Jeremy.
There was an email from Jeremy
Yeah.
at Marin Clean Energy, kind of giving a breakdown. So I'm not sure that they have responded exactly to what we have asked, but I think we can still put some pressure on them. And we will send a template of a letter that we would like to ask you to send from each of your cities as well. So if the Public Utilities Commission starts getting lots of letters from all the cities and all the jurisdictions that have community choice energy, I think they'll have to listen and respond. Another update that you may have heard about is that PG&E is planning to close Diablo Canyon nuclear plant. They're planning to close that in 2024, which is 8 or 9 years from now. But one of the interesting things is that Diablo Canyon serves about 20% of PG&E's load. And with the number of CCAs that are forming, like ours, Silicon Valley, Alameda County, just all over the state, it appears that PG&E isn't going to need the power from that plant anyway, so closing it down is okay. But the settlement that they've come up with allows PG&E to replace some of that power. So I think we will need to get involved and suggest that maybe they don't need to replace that power because we're already replacing that power with the load, with the supplies that we're bringing on. So stay tuned for more about that in the coming months and no doubt years. So that's all I have for CEO report. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Yeah, Ron.
Thanks, Jan. Because I'm the alternate, I don't always hear all the answers, but I'm just curious, I'm just reading the letter that the ratepayers get. Based on the experience of other agencies, do you have any sense of what the opt-out rate might be?
I think the other agencies, their opt-out rate has been about 10 to 15%. So in our modeling, in our financial modeling, we are assuming 15% opt-out rate. So if we have less than that, then that's a bonus. I'm hoping that we'll do much better than that our opt-out rate will be very low. And we'll talk about that more when we get to our marketing and communications.
Okay.
But we need your help, all of you. You know, you're on this board and we're looking to you to talk it up in your communities. Not like that. And help us get the word out, let people know that this is better, it's greener, cleaner, lower rates. So why would someone not want to do this?
Sorry, one more question. Will there be something, I notice PCE has a Facebook page. I have a separate Facebook page as a council member. Do they have something that I can share on that page that will sort of do the same job as this letter?
I'll let Kristen answer that. Did you hear the?
Yeah. So starting next week, we'll have a series of posts. The first one will be when our website and new website and call center go live. And the second will be about the early adopter and the letters. And so if you like the Facebook page, then hopefully you guys can all share that post because that would be really great visibility for us. We're also going to pay to have those posts promoted on Facebook to get kind of through the algorithm and get more Facebook likes. And we've been doing that just for the page as a whole lately, and it's been very successful. We'll also be sending out an email to all the board members and alternates with a hard copy of this map that we provided you attached, a hard copy of the enrollment information, and then also a kind of FAQ talking point sheet for your city clerks and staff, because we know that people may not know to call us first. They'll probably call you. So we want to make sure your staff have the information they need and know where to direct residents that call you.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Did that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and also I would like to suggest that for all the discussions we will be having, it'll make my job much easier to locate you if you just take your one of those labels and stand it so that I can see who all want to talk about after a topic, so I can take turns. Also, I have a public comment from Ann Schneider on this topic.
On Jan's report.
Sure, please go ahead.
Good evening.
Mm-hmm.
Am I on?
Yep.
Okay. My name is Ann Schneider. I'm a city council person from the city of Millbrae, and I'm an alternate to this board. And I just looked at the city of Millbrae map, and my house isn't on it. So, first of all, that bugs me. But second, for any of us who are council members, we're going to have to be pitching this to our public, and if we're not on the list, then how do you expect us to say do it when we're not doing it? Or how do we explain the experience when we haven't ourselves gone through the experience? So I would like to request this august body that you at least make some special considerations for those of us who are going to be speaking in favor of this so that our households can lead by example. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. I can respond to
wanna
that a little
respond?
bit. So we asked our consultants when they were selecting the first 20% from each city to try to have it be areas that were adjacent to each other, rather than have it be kind of randomly scattered throughout the city, because we figure people will be talking to their neighbors. And did you get the letter from Peninsula Clean Energy? Yeah. No, I didn't get it. Oh, well, he got it and I didn't. So that was our objective. If you're not on the list, then we would encourage you to be an early adopter. And that sets another example. So I would suggest that all the council members, when you go back to your councils, ask everyone, now that the website is up, to go click on the early adopter button and sign up so that you will see what's going on. When you sign up as an early adopter, you do, well, you'll just go through the script. You'll see what happens there, and you can choose the default product, which is Eco Plus at 50% renewable energy, or you can opt up to 100% renewable energy with our Eco 100.
I just wanted to add one thing. If I'm wrong, please correct that. At this point in time in phase one, we are not ready yet with people who have net energy metering going on right now with PG&D, if I understand right.
We are not, we have excluded them from phase one, and at our next board meeting on July 28th, we will present to you a proposal on how we would like to approach that group, because it's
Right.
slightly different.
But
Yeah.
their not being on the list is not because of the selection of the phase one, but that's because of the type of,
Right. Yeah, there's
Rate
some other
they have.
considerations with a net energy metering customer, so we want to make it as good for them as possible to join.
But just, isn't it accurate that if they wish to be early adopters, they can?
They can, yes.
So it's not that we aren't capable of managing them. There's other considerations why we haven't included them in phase one, which Jan will lay out. But if they want to be early adopters, they can do so just like anyone else can do so.
great. Thank you for that clarification. I'm sure the lot of us had that question. Any other questions on Jan's report? If not, we'll move to the next agenda item. As I said, we are going to bring item number 6 at this point, which was the report on renewables versus greenhouse gas-free energy. And I know that many of us had that question, what is the difference and why 75% of one and 50% of the other? So we have here helping us out in that presentation by Ivana.
Hi, my name is Ivana. I'm a recent addition to the Office of Sustainability.
Could you talk a little closer to the microphone?
Yeah, it's not live.
Maybe it's
Is the
not
mic
on.
on?
Turn it on?
Donate
Is that
to the
any better?
A little bit.
Yeah,
Is that okay?
yeah.
So hi, my name is Ivana. I'm a recent addition to the Office of Sustainability at the County of San Mateo. And today I'll be giving you a brief presentation on the difference between greenhouse gas-free versus renewable energy and why this matters from a marketing perspective for PCE as you all move forward in making decisions about how to pitch its various products. And if you have any questions, please just raise your hand. We can make it a little bit more of a discussion as we move along. Maybe I should not have these together. Feedback. Okay. Hold it. Hold a little button. Okay, is that on? No. Hello?
Yeah, now.
Okay.
AP problems are like, it's
How else are we going to stretch the meeting out?
It's a built-in icebreaker. So just to give you a sense of where we're going, I'll give a brief overview of the definitions of renewable and greenhouse gas-free energy, and then we'll move into a deeper discussion about the policy landscape surrounding both, and then just make a few points about marketing challenges that PCE faces moving forward. And again, if you have any questions, please just raise your hand. Okay, so renewable energy, and a lot of you might already know this, but renewable energy is electricity from a source that is not depleted when used, at least not depleted, or can be repleted at a human timescale, and is not derived from fossil or nuclear fuels. Greenhouse gas-free energy, on the other hand, is simply a fuel source that does not emit carbon or other greenhouse gases when it's burned. So there's a little table here at the bottom that shows the difference here. So renewable includes sources like biomass and waste, geothermal, small hydroelectric, and emphasis there on small hydroelectric, solar, and wind. GHG free is large hydroelectric, and nuclear is in gray because of the comment that Jan made earlier. The large nuclear facility, Diablo Canyon, is set for closure in just short of a decade. Okay, so with those definitions covered, we'll move into a little bit deeper dive into the policy around renewable energy in California. So this is termed California's Renewable Portfolio Standards, or RPS for short. And these renewable portfolio standards require retail sellers of electricity to source a certain percentage of electricity from renewable sources by fixed dates. So our current compliance period in 2016 is 25%. So CCA, like PCE, would have to source 25% of its electricity from eligible renewable sources. And these percentages get bumped up over time. So the next compliance period starts in 2017, and that would be 27%. And it bumps up, makes a big bump in 2030 to be 50%. A central component of RPS is RECs, or Renewable Energy Certificates, RECs for short. And these are the accepted mechanism for verifying and tracking renewable power. RECs represent attributes of the renewable electricity that gets put on the grid. So they represent the type of generation, the facility location, the date that it was generated at, and one REC represents 1 megawatt hour of power. So this is kind of the measurement for renewable energy in the policy sphere. RECs can be either sold bundled with the power that they represent, so conjoined with that power, or they can be sold unbundled from that power, sold separately. And this graphic shows that idea, that concept. So electric generating facility can sell the energy on the left there with the energy and the REC combined, or unbundled, not combined. So let's say, to demonstrate this point, let's say that there's a wind facility or a solar facility in Nevada, and a CCA like PCE wants to purchase unbundled RECs for whatever reason, not saying that you do, but hypothetically, from that facility. The power, of course, can't come to our grid, but PCE could buy those unbundled RECs. Does anybody have any questions about unbundled versus bundled RECs? Okay, another component of RPS is that renewable facilities must be located somewhere within the Western Interconnection region.
But I wanted to underline one fact that you just mentioned, that is that RPS, which is the state required constraint, has everything to say about renewable content, nothing to say about GHG. So that's one of the reasons I'm sure that at the end you were going to talk about that, why it's important to concentrate on renewable energy content.
That's right. There's not the same level of regulation around greenhouse gas-free sources. Exactly. Okay, so RECs are organized according to buckets. So all renewable energy procured from contracts after June 1 of 2010 are separated into 3 different categories or buckets. Everybody refers to them as buckets. So retailers are required to meet RPS standards or rules with a minimum percent of bucket 1 RECs, and I'll go into these, and a maximum percentage of bucket 3 RECs. And this slide is really just showing you California balancing authorities, and a balancing authority is just responsible for the transmission control area. They match generation with load and maintain electrical frequency on the grid. So our balancing authority is the California ISO. is in yellow. So then bucket 1 or category 1 RECs are bundled renewable energy. So that REC is bundled with the energy and are typically are coming from a California facility and delivered directly to the California Balancing Authority, which in our case is the California ISO, or the California Independent System Operator. So bucket 1 is a more direct transfer of bundled energy and RECs to the grid. Category 2 RECs include something called firmed and shaped energy. And this is typically coming from an out-of-state renewable energy product, say a wind facility in Oregon or Washington. And oftentimes these electricity sources, let's say wind in Washington, is not always steady. So it has to be substituted at various times with alternate power sources. And this graphic is showing that. So at 6 o'clock in the evening, there's a greater load demand, but the wind is not being generated at that time. And so there's a little area in there where the electricity has to be substituted from another source. Does anybody have any questions about what firmed and shaped electricity is?
I'd like to add just a little bit more to that. So the blue line there is the load. So say that's our electrical load shape for PCE. And the total amount of megawatt hours that need to be delivered to our load is the same as that wind output, which is shown in green. But the difference is that the timing is off. So where there's a gap between the green amount of wind that's being produced and the blue load, then a different resource would be substituted for that. And then there's certain times of the day where there's more wind that's produced than our load requires. So that other unit that substituted the energy for us, like from hours 10 to 13 of the day, would be backed off during hours 15 to 17 when the wind is producing more, so that the total amount of wind that's delivered equals the total amount that we need for our load. It's just not all time coincident.
And Jen, there was another question about whether that substituted electricity is necessarily renewable.
So substituted electricity may or may not be renewable, but what matters is that I think, like, say it's 2,000 megawatt hours total that we needed during this time period, then 2,000 megawatt hours of wind would have been produced for us. It's just, it may not have been delivered at the same time it was needed. That makes sense? Okay.
Thank you, Jan. Okay, category 3 RECs are simply those that do not fall into category 1 and 2 conditions. Jan, do you have anything you wanted to add about category 3? Okay, so this graphic represents a little bit the same breakdown that we've been talking about, but not only do electricity retailers have to have a certain percentage of their portfolio come from renewable sources, within those percentages there's a breakdown of what percentage has to come from each bucket. So in compliance period 2, which is what we're currently in, 2014 to 2016, at least 65% has to come from bucket 1 RECs. And a maximum of 15% can come from bucket 3. So there's no maximum or minimum for that bucket 2. There's just limitations on bucket 1 and bucket 3. Over time, as you can see in the yellow portion at the top, bucket 3 RECs are not desirable. You have to start to minimize those. The reason that period 3 and post 2020 columns are the same, exactly the same, is that there's no legislation for what happens after 2030. So between 2020 and 2030, it stays the same. It's at, excuse me. Am I getting this mixed up, Jen?
No
So 20.
What happens post 2020?
No,
The compliance periods haven't been set, so it's just assumed right now that those categories requirements will stay the same, but there may be legislation that changes it, but it hasn't been really defined.
But the important point that we are making here is that there are certain minimum requirements of renewable energy, certified renewable energy, that has to be met by all agencies like PG&E and Peninsula Clean Energy. We at this time are actually exceeding those minimum standards and beating PG&E on those accounts. But PG&E has to meet those minimum standards themselves, right?
okay, another aspect of tracking and showing renewable energy on the grid is the power content label. And this is essentially the nutrition label for electricity. It's pretty basic information about where electricity retailers source their renewable energy, as well as total energy. Unfortunately, the power content label doesn't really speak to where an institution is at in terms of RPS compliance. So RECs, this is a question of RECs retired, which represents compliance to RPS, versus energy actually brought onto the grid. So this is a little bit of a nuanced aspect, and I don't know if anybody needs a little bit more elaboration here about retirement of RECs at the end of the year and so on.
Any questions?
Okay, so moving into your point then about greenhouse gas-free energy, GHG emissions are tracked differently than renewable. There's a different definition. There's also no industry standard. The closest that we can get in California is the California Air Resources Board. And again, GHG-free energy is basically all renewable energy and large hydroelectric and nuclear. One component of this landscape is the GHG emissions factor, which shows the proportionate use of carbon-intensive fuel within a CCA's portfolio, you could say. So an emissions factor goes up when that carbon intensity goes up, and goes down when electricity is delivered that's less carbon intensive. So to demonstrate this point, these tables are practically impossible to read, but the red numbers are what you need to know here. Marin Clean Energy is shown at the top. This is its emissions factor in 2014. And the emissions factor is really just a measurement of CO2, pounds of CO2 per megawatt hour. And the PG&E emissions factor is down below. So PG&E's emissions factor is higher than Marin Clean Energy, which just means that there's a higher carbon concentration in its energy mix. It's less greenhouse gas free, you could say. Any questions about the emissions factor or the greenhouse gas emissions factor? Okay. So this is probably familiar to everybody in the room, but PCE Clean Energy, this is again a redundancy. PCE will provide two products, Eco Plus and Eco 100. The Eco Plus, the default product, will offer 50% renewable product that is also 75% greenhouse gas free. Eco 100 is 100% across the board. And you compare to PG&E, there are definite differences in the default product. Eco Plus is 50% renewable, 75 GHG free. PG&E is 30% renewable and 60% greenhouse gas free, and both offer 100% renewable and GHG free products, but at different price points. So this table is showing price differences for the average homeowner. And so Peninsula Clean Energy's Eco Plus is on the left, PG&E's standard product is on the right, PCE's Eco 100 is there in the middle. And so the bottom row, I don't know if I have a pointer, but the bottom row shows the price difference. PCE's Eco Plus comes in several dollars less on average than PG&E's. And the point that I'd like to, or the numbers I'd like to focus in on are the electric generation rates. And that's really where PCE makes its difference. It gets a little bit watered down because of the fees that PG&E charges. But you can see the difference in prices. PCE's Eco Plus involves a $30.33 electric generation rate versus PG&E's is $43.09. So, and if anybody's interested, I'm sure Jan could speak to why there's that cost difference. Okay, so bringing everything that I just said about the differences between these two energy sources or definitions into a brief discussion about marketing. There are challenges and drawbacks to marketing PCE's products as either greenhouse gas free or renewable. So if you're thinking about marketing it as greenhouse gas free, there's a higher percentage of the default product with PCE in comparison to PG&E's. It's the same for renewable energy, but PCE's portfolio contains 15% more greenhouse-free energy than PG&E's default choice, and future state legislation may standardize greenhouse gas emissions in the future, which could make marketing based on greenhouse gas-free emissions a little less stable in case that regulation changes in the future. Local climate action plans are based on reducing greenhouse gas emissions. Most don't really track, aren't really based on renewable energy. And it remains unclear whether local residents respond, at least in this jurisdiction, respond more positively to either term, greenhouse gas free or renewable. And perhaps some of you have insights into that. Marketing PCE's products as renewable has similar drawbacks and challenges or benefits. Focusing on renewable content is consistent with state legislation. So there's quite a bit of policy that's already built up around renewable energy, quite a bit less for GHG-free. PCE's default product contains 20% more renewable energy than PG&E's. And again, it remains unclear whether local residents more positively perceive renewable energy. So wrapping up here and maybe inviting some of your comments and insights. How do you think PCE should market its products moving forward? As carbon-free, this is not really a term that we use, but it's often synonymous with GHG-free or renewable, or all of the above. So, thanks.
Thank you. Any comments?
Question.
Well, okay, how about if I start?
Yeah, please.
I've got 1, 2 cards. Anybody else who's going to make comments or questions? Okay, let's start with you.
Yeah, actually, I was hoping, could you just go back to the slide that compares the different service offerings? I think, next one, you passed it.
This one.
This one. I think for this, does this distinguish, I'm just looking at, does it distinguish between renewable and greenhouse gas free, or no, is that the prior slide?
No, this is based on
Okay, yep, sorry.
renewable energy.
I think it was the prior
Yeah.
slide then.
There you go.
Thanks. I think it's just useful to have that up for the discussion, because it looks like we beat PG&E in both regards, right?
Right. Yeah, just by different margins,
Yep.
depending on what you're looking at, yeah.
Sounds good. Thank you.
And another marketing question is, if you're also wanting to encourage folks to opt up, not just opt out, but to also opt up, what is potentially the more compelling transition, going from 50% renewable to 100, or going from 75% GHG free to 100? What would be the more appealing? And that's just another open question, you know.
Well, being that we're all busy and most people probably just synonymously think greenhouse gas free, GHG free, renewable. How about earth friendly? Just cover it all. Because to me, people, they're not going to go through, I mean, this is a great presentation. I learned a lot. Now I understand, but you asked me to explain that to my parents are just going to go, just do whatever, just do whatever. So we want to make it simple for majority of the people who don't want to dive deep into that. We could provide this information, but if we got to do something more simple like earth friendly or something similar.
Yes, I would like to add that it's cleaner and at a better rate. That's clear. It's cleaner and it's cheaper than PG&E. So why wouldn't you do it? I just wanted a quick question first. Difference in cost, price, you had the price chart up there a minute ago. Between our Echo 100 and PG&E's 100% is, do we know what that, I mean, I think PG&E's out with their product, right? We could compare the costs? Do we know?
Yeah, ours is definitely less expensive. I don't know.
So that's a good thing for marketing the opt-up.
Okay.
See, because we will give you the 100% renewable product at less than PG&E will, which is a good reason to stick with PCE.
Am I misinterpreting that? It looks like it's more.
No, there's a fourth.
30%. There should be a fourth column
Yeah.
or a separate page to show PG&E's 100% option. It's not shown up.
Oh, okay.
They do have a 100% option, but it costs more than our proposed 100%.
Do you have that figure, Ivana?
I don't. And you?
Okay.
I don't. My recollection is that it's fairly significant, like maybe 3 to 4 cents per kilowatt hour more.
Okay.
And our Eco 100 is 1 cent per kilowatt hour more than our Eco Plus. So it's significantly less. Although I think PG&E's is all solar, and ours won't be all solar.
So I think that's a good point for marketing the opt-up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah. I don't see a big difference, except I know that everything I've been working on, while I did a lot of work with the Sustainability Commission in San Mateo, and our goal was to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, right? That's what we were talking about the whole time. Still, for some reason, when I'm talking with people, I'm talking about renewable energy, because renewable energy is what's going to make the difference. It's the new technology that's going to take us into the future. That, I think, is the bottom line.
All right, I've got 2 public comments on this presentation. First one is from Ann Schneider. Welcome again, Ann.
Hi. As someone who's been working in the recycling field for 30 years, we initially pitched recycling as good for the environment and free. So most of you have to look at your garbage rates, and we've over the years told people that garbage you pay for and recycling is free. Then you try to add on additional services, and we all know that it's never really free. So, and we all have different constituencies with different levels of interest in this. I would have wished, going back 30 years ago, that we explained that there's a cost for everything. But if we recycle at whatever cost, ultimately we keep our landfills open longer and we keep costs down. That's a really complicated message, so what we did 30 years ago or so was say recycling is free. My one recommendation for this committee is it's great for us to talk renewables, but once, and I looked at the finances for the different phases, once we've got that $20 million in the bank and we're investing into new forms of energy, you're going to be back to that argument. Is it going to be GHG free or just renewable? And the really technical public is going to hold us accountable for that. So you decide, do you want to be slightly more technical now, or maybe it's a second level marketing message, or is it your preliminary message? Just don't do what we got stuck with is the public thinks recycling is free. Nothing's free.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify, Ann, though, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ivana, all the renewable sources are GHG free as well.
No. I mean, if you look at...
That's the way I understood.
Right. No. Again, in my field, and why I've been attending these meetings for years, is when you throw in biomass, or worse, garbage for energy, that's not GHG free. In fact, it's full of carbons, and it's full of dioxins, and it's full of all kinds of stuff. So I would, if we're being purist, we're going to go for GHG free. But the reality is I don't think there's enough there. And with my old Sierra Club hat on, the biggest concern that we had with opening up the RPS standards for California was to open the doorway for large hydro coming out of Canada and Eastern Washington, which would have meant damming up a lot more valleys. So from that very green entity there, they were very afraid of large hydro. Hydro has its own set of problems. It may be GHG free, but it's killing a lot of fish. You know, nothing comes for free. So I think that's a good thing about the portfolios is you're balancing multiple energies. And I just believe in being honest on that.
Thank you. The second public comment is from Mr. James Tulea.
Yeah, I'm going to pass. I think she covered enough.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, James. Any other comments from the board? Do we need to take any action on this presentation? Just for information. Thank you very much, Havana. Thank you. We'll go to item number 2 now on the agenda, which was the consideration of alternative rollout schedules for phases 2 and 3, which is really a meaty subject. And we are going to be looking for your inputs on that. So, Jen?
Thank you. And thank you, Ivana, for a good job. Our management fellows have been putting in a lot of work to do all this research and put that presentation together for you. So one of the things I wanted to talk to you about, I guess if we can go to the next slide, is that our original schedule shows that phase 1 will be enrolled in October of 2016. Phase 2 will be enrolled in April 2017, and phase 3 in October of 2017. So I wanted to suggest that we, and we'll talk about this further when we get to the budget. Okay. But to consider moving phase 3 to either June of 2017 or April of 2017 rather than having it be in October. And there's a number of reasons why I think this would be a good thing for us to do. Right now, power costs are low. They're at all-time lows. And so I think it's prudent to accelerate power procurement when the prices are low. There's also a lot of CCAs that are forming. And so there's going to be a lot of people in the market for power. Silicon Valley Energy is going to be out there. Their first phase is in April. Los Angeles is looking at forming their own CCA. They're a huge load. Alameda County is looking at it, San Jose. So there's going to be a lot of people in the market looking for power. And the more demand there is, makes prices go up. The cost for us to accelerate the rollout is relatively the same. There's some fixed costs, so noticing, sending the mailers out. It's going to be the same whether we spend that money in April or spend that money next October. The faster rollout allows the county to become cleaner and greener more quickly, which is, of course, our overall objective. Those customers in phase 3 who are so disappointed that they're not in phase 1 can get enrolled more quickly. And as we go through the budget numbers, you'll see that there's actually not that much difference in the economics, but it's not a negative. Our revenues in the rate stabilization fund are slightly higher by accelerating the rollout. We talked about this at the executive committee earlier this week, and they were supportive of it, provided that it was either revenue positive or revenue neutral, and that the vendors could handle it. And we did talk to Noble, who are the ones that are doing all the data transfers and all the putting the call centers together, and they said no problem. The main negative is that it would put additional strain on our organization just because we'll have to do everything faster. So we'll have to get the power supply in faster. You know, there's certain ways we can do that. We could do, short-term deals to start as we're waiting for more long-term contracts to come on board. We're planning on ramping up the organization pretty quickly anyway. So that's really the main negative that I see. But I'd like to open this up to discussion from all of you as to what your thoughts are I don't think this is a discussion item, right? It's not an action item, so,
Correct.
yeah.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add to what Jan just said, that I was part of that executive committee that met on Monday, I think, morning, 8 o'clock. So, and we discussed this, and we went through in great detail both or the three options here. And the questions basically came back to Jan, and can we as PCE business can do it realistically in terms of time, accelerating the time? Like, would that be feasible with respect to the staff time and the efforts required, etc.? And Jen assured us that she is confident that it can be done. So we did not see any problem in accelerating. As a matter of fact, I see two positive effects of accelerating. Besides the financial situation, which brings a little bit few more dollars into PCE. One is that once the excitement buzz starts in a city of PCE, the word of mouth is going to go pretty fast, and people will be in the mood to join their neighbors. And just delaying by 6 months after that buzz has started basically would increase our marketing load a little bit more. You'll have to revisit the same kind of campaign. Second, I think is the point is well taken, is that we want to get as much energy, clean energy, as fast as we can.
Right.
That is actually the goal of PCE. And I think this is moving the right direction. There were some other members of the executive committee who are here, so please add your comments if you want to.
Well, I actually just wanted to ask a point of clarification. You were proposing to move up phase 2 also, or are you not proposing that?
Yeah, I had discussed that with the executive committee, and it turns out that that doesn't buy us anything. So I had considered moving phase 2 to March, but since we're still in the winter rates, that it actually is a negative, because our cost of power is pretty flat, so we get lower revenues compared to what we're paying for the power if we bring that group in earlier. So it actually ended up not being as good to do.
Well, so just from the discussion at the executive committee, it seemed to me that it was in our interest to acquire power before there was a lot of competitive pressure on the kind of power that we're going to be seeking. And others that are in the market are going to be looking for the same kind of power that we're going to be buying. And PG&E isn't going to be making that power available because they're continuing to use their power. And so it made sense to me that if we could handle it, that we should roll it up. And there is some difference in the rates. So if we get in during the summer rates rather than waiting until October, that's advantageous. Up there, you've got either move it up to June or April. What is your preference? I mean, is there a logistics issue if we do phase 2 in March and immediately do phase 3 in April versus June? That's my only concern.
Well, I'd say we'd keep phase 2 in April. So it's whether we combine phases 2 and 3 and just have one phase,
I see.
or whether we do phase 2 in April as we currently plan, and then 2 months later bring in the rest of the customers. So it's just, and we'll go through the numbers when we look at the budget, and you'll be able to see that there's, surprisingly, there's not much difference.
John?
Yeah, well, first of all, the decreased power costs or the lower power costs are one compelling reason, and the decreased demand also compelling. My question is, and I think you answered it, if we have if we accelerate up to April, will we have just one phase then, a second phase that combines the previous second and third phase?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, that's good.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess there might be some marketing synergies to doing all of the residential in April. Because right now we would have 35% of the residential scheduled for April and then the rest of them in phase 3. So, it's just more quantities. So it's just more streets for all of you to walk to, to get everyone.
But to me, the first 2 points relating to the cost of the power are really compelling.
Thank you, John. Wayne?
Oh, okay, sorry, Larry.
Okay.
You're next, you're next.
I'll buy you a Snicker bar.
I appreciate it.
You're next.
So since a lot of our cities have gone to the default of 100, I'm wondering, streetlights is on phase 3. Is there a chance we can put streetlights earlier, or is there a reason why it has to be phase 3?
When would you like that? Phase 1?
Yeah.
I suppose those accounts could be early adopters.
Well, I mean, in the cities I think we want to be early adopters. Right, so.
I think right now we don't have, I don't know what the total load is for the streetlights, if it's significant, and whether that can be moved up to phase 1.
So you want each city, so you're just recommending the cities go in and say, oh, we want to add our streetlights.
That would be one way to do it. I don't think the way our consultants have parsed the customer list, streetlights were not included in the phase 1 customer list. But we could, if that's the consensus of the group, we could certainly look at that, see what impact it would have.
Yeah, I mean,
I think
you alluded to this, but I mean, we purchased our energy for phase 1 already, based on the assumption of what our size of phase 1 would be, which didn't include streetlights. So if it was an appreciable amount of energy, we wouldn't have contracted for it yet.
So, but the municipalities, they're part of
They're
phase?
part of phase 1. Municipalities, small and medium commercial, and 20% of residential.
It's kind of marketing opportunities. Your lights, your streets are lit by clean power.
I like that.
Larry?
Yeah, Jan, so when you had the conversation with the vendors, and you made the proposal of potentially moving the scheduling up, it sounds like they were in agreement, but were there any areas of caution that they proposed or projected to you?
As far as
Just their ability.
availability of power supply?
Or just in
I
terms of moving the schedule, their planning for the launch and their ability to participate at 100%?
Well, we're going to be going out for another procurement for the power that we need for phases 2 and phase 3. So the contract that we signed was just for the phase 2 power.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll be going out again.
Phase 1.
Is that?
Phase 1.
Yeah, sorry. So we'll be going out again, and we may structure the power procurement slightly differently for the rest of our customers. But, there's power out there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Joe?
Yeah, I'm in favor of combining the schedule, but I'm in favor of having phase 3 in June. I'm just more concerned about the call center load. Because I really wanted to be smooth after everybody gets in 50%, that we can work on everybody getting 100%. So, and I'm in a small town, so I could go door to door.
Yes. All right, we were going to sign you up for that.
I've already gone door to door, and most of the elderly, they're like, why change? And I'm like, why not? So it's really a push, but I think I could do it. Once I hook them in at 50%, if they call, because most of our elderly will call, they go online. And if they get busy or cut off, I'll hear about it. So I wanted to be more smoother transition for that reason.
Good point.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? David, do we need any action from the board on this?
No, I mean, just to provide some context, I mean, this isn't an action item. The next item up is an action item, that's the budget. And this conversation sort of informs that conversation in the sense that you are being asked to approve one of 3 possible budgets. And the budgets, the 3 possible budgets, one is based on the current rollout. One is based on moving the phase 3 to June. And the third budget is based on moving phase 3 to correspond exactly with phase 2. You aren't actually deciding that today. I mean, you're deciding on a budget. If ultimately we decided on a different phasing strategy, we would have to come back to you with a revised budget. But in order to pass the budget that most reflects what we're going to do, you should pick the budget that is closest to what you think is right. I don't know if that makes sense, but I mean that's the relationship between this item and why it went before the budget item.
So let me rephrase what you just said.
Please do. I'm sure you can do it better than I did.
No, not better, but in different words. We'll be talking about budgets and their possible scenarios, and the backup of those different scenarios are the different phasing assumptions. So this background that we just got from Jan will provide us to look at the budget and its range, the difference between one versus the other. But the actual change in the phasing will take place by a board action, I assume, which will be a formal presentation and vote taking?
Could be.
Could be, okay, all right. But there are 2 questions here. One is the budget approval, the other one is the actual implementation of phasing.
Correct.
And those are 2 topics. And the one discussion we just had was basically a background information, if you will, for the next item that we are going to be talking about, and that's about the budget. And I think you already started talking about it, so let's just continue.
And I wasn't trying to be cute, although that is my tendency.
David, you're always cute.
I think that there's an argument that we would not have to bring back to you the change in the phasing, but ultimately we could. And if the board said we really want to decide on the phasing, we would definitely bring it back. If Jan wants you to decide on the phasing, she can definitely bring it back. I think technically we wouldn't have to bring it back.
Okay. John had a question.
Yeah. If we wanted to, say, roll out in April and June for sake of smoother call center performance, could we still purchase all our power at once in April? And
Yeah, I mean, we can.
just get it scheduled a little bit differently.
I think, because the timing would be not that different. I mean, we'd have to procure a certain amount for April and May, and then say that in June it needs to bump up. So, yeah, we can do that. But I think we need to decide that before we go out there to procure power, because we need to give the power suppliers some idea of what it is we're looking for.
Right.
Daniel?
So my thought is, for all the reasons that are listed there, it's great if we can do it on the accelerated time frame. Embedded within Joe's question, though, is an assumption, which is that, this will create issues with the call center. You noted that you called, correct me if I'm wrong, Noble's our call center.
Mm-hmm.
They provide a number of things, but they're a call center provider as well. Is that right?
Yes.
And did we, part of the advantage of us using a call center rather than doing it in-house is the call center is highly scalable. So did we ask them whether they feel this will create an issue? And if we did, and the response was, they said they don't think it would create an issue, my instinct would be to defer to Jan to do it on an accelerated basis if she feels that they can do it. But just to ask the question, what was Noble's response on that point?
I asked them, they said, no problem. Pretty quick answer.
Elizabeth?
No problem between October, June, and April.
Right.
Good. The big issue is combining phases 2 and 3 in April, because there's obviously more people coming on at the same time. and they don't have a problem, there wouldn't be a problem.
That's what they
From their
said,
perspective.
no problem. It's more, in some sense, it's less work for us.
Sure.
And in some sense, it's more work for us. But yeah, the call center is definitely where we would see the impact, because there'll be way more people being rolled over. So twice as many as we'll see in phase 1. So if we ask them to ramp up, make sure that they have people in place, which is what they're supposed to do.
Not to beat a dead horse on that, but I remember during the selection process that Noble may have had some growing accommodations to even address the needs of the PCE. Is that correct, that there was a little bit of concern during the selection process? They may not be able to accommodate the volume? Am I recalling that correctly?
I actually wasn't on board at that time, so I don't know.
So
the
I think what you may be referring to was, we're big.
Location.
And I believe at the time that the launches, the phase launches that we're having were going to be some of the largest launches they had done. Now, I think they're the experts over there, but I believe that is it Sonoma or Marin?
They have both.
Is about to do a launch.
Marin.
That is big. I don't know whether Noble's actually handled a launch that is quite as big as our combined phase 2 and phase 3, but I believe they have handled some, or will have handled some launches that approximate it.
Okay, so I think.
Yeah, that is correct. I think we would be the biggest one they've done. However, Marin Clean Energy is adding a huge amount more customers than they currently have, and I think that would be kind of comparable to what our phase 2 and 3 combined would be.
The most important thing is your memory was right.
Okay, that's good. And I think that just emphasizing Daniel's point about assumptions can be dangerous. So between just assuring that and also the cost savings or cost neutrality on combining phases 2 and 3, I think would be important. But otherwise, it sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, and actually, we had a discussion today with Noble, all of the Marin, Sonoma, Lancaster, San Francisco, and us had a 3-hour meeting with Noble. I wasn't there in person because I was preparing for this, but they heard what they need to have done. There's some things they need to improve, and I'm sure they got the message today. So,
Rick?
which is good because we're starting on Monday.
So I just want to say that I'm encouraged by this, because I think the sooner that we can ramp up, obviously, the more positive effect we'll have. Also, I agree with the issue about the marketing, that over 6 months waiting periods, the buzz can kind of die down, and then once again, people are going, what is this? What's it about? How will it affect me? So if we can stick 2 and 3 together in a sooner period of time, I think it'll be better. And I see advantages in the first pro there. Power costs are low right now, and many new users going to be coming online, people looking for the same resource. It makes all the sense in the world to me to move forward with combining these phases earlier. Thank you.
Joe?
Yeah. The call center, I'm in favor of just combining them, but if Jan sees, hey, the first phase didn't go really well, then hey, maybe we could split it for 2 months, 2 and 3, or it was kind of seamless. We had our issues, but let's go ahead and let's combine them. I just want that flexibility there after phase 1.
But then my question would be, will you have that flexibility? Because I am a little concerned about the smoothness. I don't mind moving it up, let's say to June. But if you move it to April and you're not really 100% positive that Noble can take care of that, I'd be a little more hesitant. I'd rather wait the 2 months. Because you don't want to defer people that maybe get frustrated during that phase 2. And then people in phase 3 don't want to go and take on the cleaner energy because there's been issues.
Right.
So I'd rather take your time and do it correctly and get the kinks out rather than frustrate people and lose potential customers.
Yeah, exactly.
And Jen, I remember that we had a discussion on the topic, namely when we prepare the initial marketing material, we will have to mention to them about our phasing situation in that brochure or whatever the marketing material is. So information will be needed about what we want to do in the future for phase 2 and 3 now, in order to not confuse people who, or have them not believe us if we keep on changing our targets. So it may be an important issue for you to think about, Jan, in terms of what we should say right now in the marketing materials that we can be consistent
Right.
In the future.
Right. Good point.
Any other comment, question? Oh yeah, go ahead.
So my understanding of, I understand we're probably describing the whole thing on the website, but the marketing materials we're sending out, like this letter, it doesn't really describe the other phases. This is just going to the people that are eligible to participate in the first phase, and we have to put this material together about a little over 3 months before they come online. So looking at the April phase, that decision obviously by the beginning of the year has got to be totally locked in.
Right.
I think what Joe's point is what would be ideal for us, as long as it wouldn't adversely impact our outreach or consistency, would be to see how the phase 1 goes, and we're going to start seeing that call center put into action next week. So certainly over the next 3 months, we're going to see that whole picture. If we have, I'm comfortable to say let's combine them and make it April, but if we experience problems over these next few months, then it would be most comfortable to be able to make an adjustment and delay.
Yeah. And I think what we can do is for our power procurement, go ahead and tell the suppliers we're looking for April, and then it can always be delayed a little bit. But just so, I mean, part of it is locking in the supply before everyone else gets it. And then I think it would be good to see how Noble does, and maybe by October we can see how it's going.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, the first two notices are going to be going out in the next couple months, and that's when the spikes in calls will be happening, and we'll see how it goes.
So Jan, you got all the input you wanted from the board?
Yes.
On this topic. So let's move on to the next topic, which is the budget. Again, Jan, it's you.
Yeah, you're getting the Jan show tonight. So, let's put a note here. Okay, so as we've been talking about, I'm bringing 3 different budgets to you, and we'll just kind of go through what it is. So this is actually, so there's 3 scenarios. Scenario A is our current scenario where we roll out October, April, October. Scenario B is October, April, June, and scenario C is October, April, April. So this comes from the current scenario, and it just kind of shows you how the revenue is going to be coming in and what our expenditures are. So we have a spike basically in November, December, when our customers first come on. It goes down in winter because the rates are lower, and then it ramps back up again in April because we're bringing more customers on, and also the summer rates are kicking in. That's the green line. The red line is the expenditures, so the cost of power is what it is. It's pretty flat. There's also other staffing and other expenses, and then it ramps up again as we bring more power supplies on. And then the bottom blue line is our reserve fund, what I'm calling the rate stabilization fund, where we're putting aside 5% of our revenues every month, and so you can see that starts to grow. And just to look at how the expenditures work out, cost of power is the big the big thing. I just wanted to make sure everyone was aware that that's really the critical item here, and so being very careful and negotiating hard with our suppliers is really important to keep that number as low as possible. Staffing's a small sliver. The professional services are our consultants. The net energy metering costs are in there. Other A&G, office space, things like that are in that yellow wedge. The little tiny green wedge is debt service. We just pay a little bit of interest during FY17. And then the rate stabilization reserve is, that's 5% of our revenues. And then just showing month by month how it goes, kind of the same pattern of what our expenditures are. So looking at the three scenarios for the revenue, scenario A, which is the current plan, is in yellow, scenario B is in green, scenario C is in blue. So you can see that the B, which is bringing phase 3 on in June, and C bringing phase 3 on in April, they're pretty close. So the main changes are in FY17, because if we bring in everyone in April, then the revenues increase. And then in FY18, they're pretty much the same throughout the year. And then it levels out for all the other years. And then expenditures, similarly, the expenses are higher because we're buying more power. What's interesting, well, and this is actually the revenues minus the expenditures. The reason why the surplus goes up year by year, and then it drops down again in 2021 because we have to pay back our loan. But if we look at the surplus on a cumulative basis, really looking at the three scenarios, they're not that much different. So there's a little bit of a difference in 2028, in FY18. And then for the rate stabilization fund, just looking at where that goes, the difference is about $900,000 by 2021 if we bring everyone on in April. So it's really, when you look at this, it's kind of rounding errors. So revenue-wise and cost-wise, they're pretty much a wash. So happy to go into more detail on any of it, or if you want more. I guess I can tell you some of these assumptions behind the budget. It assumes a 15% opt-out rate. So if our opt-out rate is less than that, which hopefully it will be, then our revenues will be higher, our surplus will be higher. It also assumes that we're going to decrease our rates by another 10% in January, assuming that PG&E decreases their rates. So one of our objectives is to have our rates be lower than PG&E, and based on PG&E's report that came out in June, where they forecast what the PCEA would be and what their future generation rates would be, where they're dropping them 2.3% in January, we would similarly drop the rates. So if that doesn't occur, if they don't drop their rates as much, then we wouldn't have to drop our rates as much, and our revenues and everything else would be higher. Those are pretty much the key assumptions that are built into the budget.
What about the cost of power assumption?
The power costs are assumed to be about what we contracted for with Direct. And I think there may be an escalation. There is an escalation in the rates. We do assume a certain percentage increase in rates every year, very small, after that 10% drop. I think the power supply costs are based on the costs that we got for Direct, and just projecting increased volumes at those same rates throughout that 5-year period.
Okay. Questions and comments? Yes, go ahead, Dan.
Well, based on the discussion that we just had and the feedback you received from the board, which scenario are you recommending at this stage?
Well, I think your input's been really good, and I think what I would recommend is that we go forward in our power procurement, assuming that we would want to telling the suppliers that we want all of the power by April, but that, and by the time, you know, we get bids in from them and we start negotiating and all that, it'll be October or November. And at that point, we'll know how this first phase has gone and how Noble has performed and how the call center has gone, and we'll know whether or not, you know, we think they're whether we're comfortable in them accelerating the phases together. And also, they'll be better trained. So their workers, assuming that they all continue working for the next 6 months, will know our program and will be better able to respond to questions.
So that would be scenario C?
Yeah, I think so. Scenario C with a possibility of going back to scenario B, depending on if things aren't working out.
I'm looking around the table. Please put your placards vertically if you want to have a comment. If not, I assume you don't have any questions? Yes, yeah.
So I'm looking at the website now, and under community, it says that surplus funds will be reinvested in your community. Where in that time frame are we talking about with looking at these numbers in front of us?
That $50 million that we're going to have? Well, first we're going to get launched.
Oh, no, yeah.
And then we'll do all the fun things, yeah.
Just wanted to kind of just bring that out to the board of how soon are we going to start doing what we say we're doing? Right.
Yeah.
By 2018, by?
Yeah, I think once we're launched, then we can start looking at new programs. One of the things we also need to do is get a credit rating from the credit agencies. They're going to be looking at this, our reserve fund, and they're going to say, you have a certain amount of revenues coming in, and you know, we feel that you should have this much money put aside before we can give you a decent rating. We also have some operating covenants we need to meet with Barclays for our loan, as far as days cash on hand and debt coverage ratio and all that, which I'm sure we can do. I mean, once we get to once we're in the summer of 2018, we're golden on all that stuff. So I would say that would be the time where we'll really be able to start implementing some of those programs.
Thank you.
Yeah, we do want an action on this item for month-by-month budget part, not the long-term, year-by-year. That was just for information's sake,
No,
I
I
assume?
think what we're looking for is, if I were to take Mr. Yost's lead, I think it would be a motion to approve budget scenario C, is what we'd be looking for.
Okay. Do you have a?
Yeah, I was just going to make a motion in that regard to approve budget scenario C, and if staff wants to come back to us and modify that down the road based on Noble's performance, encourage them to do that, but in terms of what we approved today, it would be scenario C.
So the motion has been made by Daniel Yost and seconded by Rick Bonilla. And everyone in favor? Say aye. Aye. Any opposition? The motion passes unanimously. The budget is approved. Jan?
I assume we didn't have any public comment.
Any public comments?
Nope.
No. You know, in our city committee, in our council meetings, we have two kind of items. One is administrative kind of items. The other ones are legislative. So we usually don't have public comments for administrative part. But it's up to you.
You gotta go up there.
So we have approved the item, and budget
Thank
is
you.
approved.
Thank you for the discussion. That's very helpful.
By the way, I did find one kind of shortcut based on some doodling with the numbers you provide us. By the way, thank you very much for the tables. That whenever we increase our revenue, total revenue on the top line, I was looking at scenario A versus C because there's a big difference. And then I looked at the overall increase in the reserve for the same scenarios. the increase in the reserve is 6% of the reserve in the of the increase in the revenue. So that figure is a very useful figure for me. So that way, if we know the aggregate revenue, we can quickly calculate the impact on our reserve funds, because I assume that the relationship is pretty much the same throughout as a rough figure, just like price elasticity.
Right.
So I'll keep that number in my mind.
Okay, great.
Thank you. Next item.
So if you're ready for item 4, that's me.
Yes.
Good evening, everybody. David Silverman, General Counsel. So I'm gonna keep this short. I'm happy to answer any questions. It's a complicated area. A little bit of background. One of the things, so when we went out to procure power, we asked all of the proposers to propose, among other things, resource adequacy. And so what is resource adequacy? It's not intuitive. We are not actually purchasing any electrons. This is not energy. What we are doing is we are meeting our obligation, and it's a regulatory obligation, to increase, or excuse me, not strike that, to make sure that there is sufficient capacity on the grid so that there's always enough energy for people to have energy. So it's a regulatory requirement. We're required to do it. And so when we went out for proposals, we asked for proposals for resource adequacy. And we got proposals from all of the proposers. And as Ms. Pepper alluded to earlier today, or she didn't allude to, she said it, we chose Direct Energy as our energy service provider. Well, it turns out that Direct Energy also had the best proposal, and I don't believe it was even close, for resource adequacy. To give you a sense of scale, I don't want to talk numbers in detail, but the cost of resource adequacy is about 1% of the total cost relative to our energy purchase. So we have recommended that you also select Direct Energy for your resource adequacy provider. In anticipation and hope that the board did take our recommendation, we negotiated an agreement with Direct Energy to provide resource adequacy services, and that agreement is before you. And I should actually say agreements. There are actually 3 different resource adequacy requirements. We have to provide for local resource adequacy, system resource adequacy, and flexible resource adequacy. So system resource adequacy is enough capacity in Northern California. Local resource adequacy is adequacy specific to the Bay Area and other areas that PG&E serves. Flexible resource adequacy is not about location. It's about time. There are certain times where demand for energy is highest, and so flexible resource adequacy looks to build the ability to ramp up quickly so that in the event that the grid needs more power, that there are providers out there that can provide that power quickly. So that's flexible resource adequacy. The confirmation, there's a different confirmation for each one. Their confirmation agreement. They're very, very similar, which is why I've only provided you an example of one. The very specific terms are trade protected, and so we have redacted the amounts. But ultimately, what you have is the agreement that I am asking the board to approve. There is a resolution in the packet, and so what I am asking the board to do is adopt the resolution. If anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Well, I think it'll depend on how much we understand what you just mentioned about 3 different.
Yeah, tell me about it. Tell me about it. I've spent a lot of time, more than I'd like, over the last week and a half trying to understand resource adequacy because it's not intuitive.
Yes, I understand that. But I think it is, in simple words, because I was involved with CAISO at one time, it's basically state wants to ensure that whatever happens, everybody has got light when they turn the switch on. like whatever happens in whatever way, there's a very high probability you all will have all the electricity you need or you want at that time. In order to fulfill that requirement, there are 3 different indexes or 3 different ways they have looked at the availability of the power if needed, that's why you said it's not buying electrons right now, because that depends on how much you use actual, but ability to prepare that you have the capacity to meet the demand if it does take place. Anyway, that's a very overall simplified approach, and it requires 3 different dimensions. So I will go around the table and give everybody a chance to comment or question.
Sure, happy to start off. I don't have any comments or questions. Well, no questions. 2 quick comments. One, thank you for the explanation and for all the work on that. Second comment is I did check, and as it turns out, the firm I work for has the particular provider that we've selected as a client, and so for that reason I'm going to abstain for the record. But I wasn't involved in the final decision-making process, that small group. So, but thank you.
Thank you, Daniel, for bringing that up.
Yeah.
Anyone else on this
I'd
side?
just like,
go ahead.
Let's see if we could ask for Jan's comments on this so that we could.
Okay, Jan?
Yeah.
I mean, we've gotten some good, I think the prices that we have from Direct for this are really good. I'm glad to see that David is on his way to becoming our energy attorney. So good job.
Thanks.
But yeah, it's basically, resource adequacy or having the extra capacity. I think the ISO likes to have like 15% extra resources there. So if a tree falls down and knocks out a line, or a power plant goes offline for some reason, there's resources there so your lights stay on. And that's really what it is, and we have to pay for it. So.
Okay, thank you. So that's it. I'd just like to say that I'm in support of the resolution.
Okay. Any comments?
all I
Please
wanna say
put
is-
your placard up so I can see.
You were looking at me, so.
Go ahead.
You're looking at me?
Yeah, this is go around the table. I thought he was looking at me. I just want to thank you for the explanation of resource advocacy. And it was a nice, clear definition. I get it.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm wondering if ongoing future, if turns out that fortuitously Direct Energy is also the provider of the alternate energy, why can't we just make that as part of the RFP for future companies, that we require them to provide, guarantee the alternate energy, so that we don't have to have bidding out 2 contracts out?
I mean, Jan could answer that, or this is to our advantage. I mean, so we don't want to. I mean, it's not a bad idea. I'm not suggesting it's a bad idea, but by breaking it up and giving us the flexibility to select different providers, we can ensure that we get the best price for both. Because they're really, one is clearly a product. I mean, one is we're buying electrons. The other is we're basically buying this regulatory compliance. And it's not necessarily true. I mean, it was here, but it's not necessarily true that the best provider for the electrons is going to be the best provider for the resource adequacy. The other thing that I didn't highlight is the term of this is not identical, nor is the amount identical with respect to resource adequacy as it is with the electrons. And part of the reason is resource adequacy is a regulatory requirement that can and will change regularly. And so we don't know, in fact, even today, we don't know with certainty how much resource adequacy we're going to need to provide. The regulators are going to tell us that this month, and these amounts are going to be adjusted based on what the regulator tells us. And that's why the term of the resource adequacy agreements, all of them end in 2017. So we are not purchasing all of our resource adequacy for phase 1, either all of the resource adequacy for phase 1, all of the customers, or for the entire term. So there isn't perfect overlap, I guess is the answer to that.
Yeah, and I would recommend that we always, for these types of things, that we procure them separately, because a generating plant can provide this. I mean, there's a lot of different organizations that can provide resource adequacy, and we just always want to get the lowest price we can. So it is a different bird.
Thank you, Wayne. Yes,
I'm in favor
Mike.
We should adopt this, this resolution. I
So-
think they've done a lot of work on this, and I feel
that a
confident
motion?
that.
So is that a motion?
Yes. that is
So
motion.
Mike Gungona makes the motion to adopt.
And before you vote, I assume there's not public comment, but just to check.
Any public comments? Okay. Any second?
A second.
Okay, Larry Moody seconds it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition? Passed unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, David. You did a great job. Next item.
Okay, the next item is to, let's see, to go on to our marketing.
Yes.
Is that right? So we will have Kristen take the lead on this.
I'm over
There
here.
she is.
I'm all ready.
You need this?
Yes. Good evening, everyone. I'm Kirsten Pringle with San Mateo County's Office of Sustainability. And tonight I'm here to give you an update on our commercial marketing, but we also came with a little ask. Jan said to make you work, so we're going to make you work. I have a worksheet, for a lack of a better word, in front of you where we're going to be asking you for some information about your city that will help us target the commercial outreach that we're doing. So I kind of touch on it as we go through the presentation, but I just want you to be aware of that. That's in the packet of materials I give you that included the enrollment map and also the first enrollment notice. So commercial, small and medium commercial customers are going to be in phase 1 of enrollment, which will be October of this year. And phase 2 of enrollment, which will still be April, is going to be large and industrial commercial customers. However, when we talk about commercial customers, I just want you to be aware that we're not just talking about traditional businesses. Commercial customers include basically everyone except for residents and agricultural accounts. So we're also talking about schools. We're also talking about hospitals and special districts, such as water districts and wastewater districts. Water and wastewater is actually a really energy-intensive process. They use a lot of energy to treat it. And so these are some of the target people that we want to hit in addition to these traditional businesses. So we kind of have to expand our scope of what we think of as a commercial customer. I heard you earlier talking about messaging for PCE, and somebody said cleaner electricity at lower rates, and I'm really glad that's what you like, because that's what's on all our marketing materials right now, so I would hate to go back and change that. So we're really emphasizing lower rates, local benefit. I think a lot of local businesses will like the fact that this is a San Mateo County organization, and that we really care about the community that we're serving. And about the fact that we are cleaner, of course. We really want to keep the messaging clean and simple. So these are some challenges that we identified in outreaching to commercial customers. And I really want to thank Councilmember Bonilla. He was part of a leadership group that did a report as their final project where they actually surveyed businesses in downtown San Mateo, and they identified some of the challenges and brand awareness about this program. So Councilmember Bonilla might actually recognize some of these challenges up here because a lot of them came from his report. And they also came from other community choice energy programs, which we talk to frequently to get best practices about how to do outreach. So some of the main ones we identified is it's sometimes hard to reach the decision maker in a business. Especially with the large businesses, the enrollment notice is probably not going to go to the person who makes the decision. It may go just straight to their billing department, or it might just go straight in the trash, whoever gets their mail. So we really want to make sure that the people who make the decisions are being informed about this program. This is a new program, so it lacks education and awareness in the community, which is something that was really apparent in the survey that Rick did in downtown San Mateo. The green benefit may have limited appeal. I think there's maybe some layer of greenwashing, or especially here in Peninsula, being green is maybe so commonplace that it may not have the drive that it used to have. There's skepticism of government programs. And commercial customers also have really complex rate structures. As we've probably all learned together, there's not just one commercial rate, there's tons of commercial rates. And especially for medium and large customers, they may have multiple accounts, all with different rate structures. So it's not always really clear of what their bottom line is going to be when there's so much complexity that goes into it. But we're gonna face these challenges and we're gonna solve them. And this is how we're going to solve them. So these are our commercial outreach strategies that I'm briefly going to go through with you. So one is our collateral. We have a bunch of printed collateral. Some of it is informational. So this includes pamphlets, FAQs that have our messaging just for commercial customers. And we also want to hand out copies of our enrollment notice. Like I said before, the decision makers may not be the ones getting these notices in the mail. So we want to make sure the CEOs or the business owners are the ones to get this information. And we also have collateral for businesses or any commercial organizations like some of those other special districts or school districts who really want to support Peninsula Clean Energy. So we have a postcard, which you can see in the upper right-hand corner of the screen, a poster, a web badge, which is on the bottom, which I also hope to see on all your guys' city websites, and window clings. So these are all ways that businesses could help support PCE, but also you as a city could help support Peninsula Clean Energy.
Kristen, one
Yes.
question. Do you have any standard advice to individual cities who have their own website on how best to represent PCE activities on our websites currently? Do you have some information like that that we can pass on?
That's a good question. I think it varies a little. I think making it really visible and having a link to our website, I think, is number one. If someone searches your website for Peninsula Clean Energy and making sure they can easily just link back to our website. I don't want you to have to copy all the content we have. I want it just to be really easy for you to go from your website to our website. Having a really visible button is good. And we'll also supply you with some draft content that maybe you could put on your website, but also put in newsletters that you send out. Because I know almost every city has newsletters that they put out on a frequent basis. And we think that's a really good source to outreach to your residents.
Yeah, one of the things on our website we have is the upcoming events, like calendar of the city. And it will be great to have any PCE event, if you want to have a town hall or anything like that, which could be inserted among those events, so the people don't have to make two steps, like click the PCE button in order to figure out what the next event is. So that kind of thing, I would appreciate if you could talk to some of these staffs we have, and I can tell them to contact you if you want.
Yeah, that would be great. That's actually part of what's in your information packet. I've identified a lot of the sustainability staff that I work with, but if there's someone else I should be talking to, please provide me with their information, and we can definitely give you some upcoming events. Two of them I'm going to talk about. One is a training for people who want to volunteer to talk and outreach on behalf of PCE, and the other is a workshop specifically targeted at businesses. So those would be both great ones to advertise on your city website. And this is just an example, a snapshot of what our commercial side of our website is going to look like. It doesn't look like this now, but our full new website is going to launch on Monday. Part of the commercial business site is just the messaging for commercial customers, but there'll also be a cost comparison for the average commercial customer so they can get a general sense of how much money they're going to save with our Eco Plus product. But we'll have the full list of commercial rates for people that want it. Another unique aspect about our website is we're going to have an eco business directory. So this is for businesses or commercial accounts in general who opt up to our 100% option. Because it is slightly more expensive for 100%, we really want to reward these commercial and business customers. So we'll have a place on our website where residents can go and actually see a list of every business in San Mateo County that has opted up for 100% green energy. We also want to do case studies as we have more businesses enter into the 100%, so really drive that just like positive reinforcement. I think the most effective way to really outreach, especially to the small and medium businesses in San Mateo County, is just building that one-on-one connection. So one way that we're going to do this is hold a series of workshops. We're planning on 4 in-person workshops, North County, Central County, South County, and Coastside. And we're currently working with all the chambers of commerces in your guys' cities or areas to outreach to their member list. However, you have a specific chamber contact, I would really love to have that. And also, I know a lot of your cities have other business organizations in addition to the chambers. So for example, I know the city of San Mateo has the Downtown Association, Downtown San Mateo Association, in addition to those chambers. And that's really the information that we need, because those are the type of organizations we need to reach out to. The second way we're going to build the one-on-one connection is we're going to do merchant walks. So we, PCE staff, meaning Carolyn Gordon and I, but also a bunch of trained volunteers are actually going to go out to key business corridors in your city and go door to door and just talk to your wonderful business owners. So we will be holding probably 2 volunteer workshops. So as I mentioned, that'd be a great thing for you guys to advertise, and we'll send around the flyer. We're finalizing that right now. But we also need your help identifying what are the key business corridors in your city or town. So if we could only go to one street or a couple of streets, what would be the most important or what would be the most effective for us to hit? And I think that's information that you guys can supply way better than we could guess. And then in addition, we're just always doing presentations and tabling. We think a lot of the small business owners or people who work maybe in our schools or in some of these special districts are also San Mateo County residents. So when we reach out to residents, we also reach out to our commercial customers. And our volunteers, in addition to talking to your businesses, will also be trained on how to talk to the volunteers or talk to residences. So we have our small and medium businesses. We have some of our other special accounts, and schools are actually a really special category. And talking to other community choice energy programs, schools are the type of commercial account that have the highest opt-out rates. Part of this is budget concerns. We all know schools have a pretty strict budget, but also I think part of it is just because they have such complex rate structures. If you think about a school district, they're going to have multiple accounts, they're going to have multiple types of accounts, and a lot of schools are actually on special rates for different programs, especially if they have solar panels, and so this just really complicates things. So we think it's really important to just get in touch with all the superintendents of every school district in San Mateo County and sit down with them and just talk through some of these issues to make sure they stay in Peninsula Clean Energy. So part of what we need from you as well, if you know the name and the contact information for the superintendent of your local school district or school districts, that would be very helpful. And then general recap of how you guys, but everyone can help spread the word about PCE is provide us with information, business organizations, business corridors, local businesses. You could volunteer a merchant walk or just talk to people. Sounds like Como's already covered, so we got one of 20, 19 to go. But, you know, people don't want to just see me. They want to see you out there, or they want to see your friends, or they want to see people you know. And it's also just a really good way to build community as, I think, as an elected official. If you can't do it, though, we also love you to help us recruit volunteers for merchant walks. I'm sure there's sustainability commissions in a lot of your cities. There's a lot of local sustainability groups like the Pacifica Climate Committee, or Burlingame has a sustainability group. Those are really great candidates to help us do these volunteers. And just circulating the general information about all these events that we're doing. And just a general recap, some of the things I didn't touch on that are not commercial specific, but for residents, is that our first enrollment notice is going out next week. It's the first of 5, so it's going to be every month from about July to November. We'll be sending out enrollment notices, so I just want you guys to be aware of that. This is not like a one-time thing. This is going to be happening every month for a while, so there's going to be a lot of interest generating. We have just started our social media outreach, so not just our Facebook, we're actually sending out ads on social media sites and also some online platforms, and that will continue for about the next month and a half. And then in the fall, we're going to switch heavily to doing our TV ads and print ads. And then we'll also be doing some Samtrans bus shelters, and we've targeted those to the neighborhoods that will be in phase 1 of enrollment. So if we actually are looking at the neighborhoods that will be enrolled and trying to have the ads there for the bus shelters. And that summarizes everything I had. Happy to answer any questions and always happy for feedback.
Thank you very much, and I'm going to make up for the omissions I did. And that was not to include the public comments. So this time I'll give the public the first chance to have any comments. Please come to the microphone. And please state your name and affiliation.
Mark Bauhaus, San Carlos resident. Nextdoor is really active in our county, so a good platform to reach out and have some messaging. Good.
That was actually an excellent point. We tried to make a Nextdoor and they wouldn't let us. They're very strict about what Nextdoor accounts. But I know almost all the cities have Nextdoor accounts, so that'd be a really great way for you to help us in a way that we're not be able to do it.
There was another comment. Yeah, please come to the microphone.
Hi, my name is Alex Canaro. I'm an engineer and environmentalist from Menlo Park. And when I first found out about this organization forming in March, I did an analysis of several pages and presented it personally to Mr. Pine, I guess, who's not here. Heard absolutely nothing back. What I'd like to raise is the importance of understanding what the purpose of any organization is when it talks about energy and the environment, and that is to make sure that our descendants have a decent environment and that we don't make silly mistakes simply because we get wrapped up in something that feels good, right? So for instance, I understand, I'm talking with your CEO a couple of meetings ago, that a contract has already been let by your consultant, Pacific Energy Associates, to Direct Energy to buy power from them. Well, Direct Energy has been involved with some greenwashing accusations. And Direct Energy is a natural gas energy supplier. And it is a wholly owned subsidiary of Centrica, which is one of the world's largest gas energy sales organizations in the world. And it's centered in the UK. So what we have is we have a contract from a group who's trying to make progress on emissions in California, letting a contract to a company who has had some perhaps shady dealings with saying what's green energy and what's not. Wholly owned by a holding company in another country, which also has had the same kind of charges against it in the UK. So I think you see what we're coming into is we're creating here a bureaucracy on top of something that really doesn't need to exist. If somebody doesn't like the way PG&E is doing things, and none of us really do if we actually look at it. I mean, they burned up 8 people in San Bruno, and we did nothing, and the CPUC was found to be negligent by the NTSB on that score, and we did nothing about it. If we really care about what our descendants are going to find when they get here that we've left, then we should be cleaning up CPUC. We should be talking to our legislators. We should be talking to the governor. We should be going to CPUC meetings. We should be supporting Jerry Hill and Mike Gatto, who of our legislature have proposed a bill to take the CPUC apart and rebuild it as a customer-oriented organization doing what it's supposed to do. Now, the reason that Centrica and...
Excuse me, usually the purpose of public comments after a given topic is to address the topic under discussion.
Yes,
to the
that's
board.
what we're talking about. The topic is what this agency is doing with public money. Right.
No, the topic is.
I'm a
much-
member of the public.
Marketing.
My taxes go to what has been going on here.
Well, the topic is much more specific on the marketing part.
Well, fine, I'll get to the marketing then. That's be the next thing. The marketing is going to say that somehow we have clean energy. to
Please
sell.
try to be brief, if you will.
I will, I'm almost done, actually. But if you want to listen, I'll be done shortly. Because there's not much else to say.
And I just observe, normally we do 2 minutes for
Yeah.
public comment. I'm just asking that the clock be started.
So, doesn't matter what the public thinks if it takes 2 minutes or more.
Sir,
You're on.
There are some
All right,
rules.
so let me just continue. So, and up to your limit, whatever suits you. As a result of this operation, this could become an embarrassment to San Mateo County, to our towns that get involved in it, and to our descendants, it could become something of a joke. I don't really want to see that happen. I've lived here for years. I'm an engineer. I understand electric power. One of the people who gave a presentation for Pacific Energy Associates the last couple of meetings ago didn't understand that we don't deliver electrons to customers. Amazing. This is somebody who's a consultant in electrical power, and he doesn't understand that, well, power systems actually don't deliver electrons to customers. So what I'm trying to get to is that this organization really has to be careful to do things in a scientific and engineering-wise and an environmental way. If not, we're going to end up as a disaster. That's my point. And people who learn about what really is happening will opt out, and of course that'll affect you financially. But the fact that you've already given a contract through a consultant to organizations that have been known to do greenwashing and who are gas organizations, I find amazing. Because we know natural gas has ruined all of California's wind and solar just from the Aliso Canyon leak alone. And that's been allowed by Dogger and the CPUC. So we have no progress on emissions as far as California is concerned with regard to gas. And yet this is where you're going to be contracting to get energy from, gas companies. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And do you have something to say?
Just curious,
2 minutes,
on commercial properties, when they're multi-tenant properties, in my field, we've got the problem that if the landlord doesn't cooperate, the tenants don't get to participate. I guess it depends if your multi-tenant property is individually metered or not, but just keep that in mind. If there's a program to go out, also as an alternate, I'm happy to walk all of the business streets in Millbrae because there's so many of them, but please sign me up. Our chamber, I believe, is also very active in this, so hopefully you'll encourage a chamber. Millbrae also has a very large Chinese or Asian business community, and you might check with Peninsula PCBA, Peninsula Community Business Association, Peninsula Chinese Business Association. So we've got a couple of additional associations to work through.
Thank you, Ann. Anyone else from the public? Yes, please. 2 minutes, please.
James Talia. Just one quick note I used to work at PG&E, and on the school opt-out rate, it might be because I know that the customer reps for PG&E do a lot of programs with the schools, and so I think they really like their PG&E reps, and so one part of the messaging to school, one thing that everybody should know, is that they don't lose their PG&E rep. They get to keep their PG&E rep and keep doing those programs. So if it looks like they're not interested or they're having some reservations, it might be because they really like what they've been getting out of their PG&E rep for energy efficiency and demand-side management programs and solar programs. They don't lose any of that. So that might come up. I just wanted you to be aware of that.
Thank you.
It'll be PG&E.
All right, now we'll move to the board comments.
Can
I see one,
can I-
two, I'm
can
sorry?
I say something, please?
Yes, please.
Okay. Before we get off this topic, the worksheet that you were handed out, we'd like to collect those tonight.
Tonight?
So-
No.
We have to get information.
He said make them work.
You can have them back.
Yeah.
Yeah, give us a couple of days.
So what I'd like to Okay, if you want to keep it, you can. We really need to get it back from you quickly because we want to get, I mean, your input is hugely valuable because we don't know all the nuances about your cities. So if you want to keep it, you can. Or what we could ask you to do is maybe take 3 minutes right now, put in what you can, hand it back to us, and then we'll, assuming this is okay with the rest of the PCE staff, is that we will scan it and send it back to you for anything else that you want to add.
Jen, how about this? If we promise, I'm just talking for myself. If I promise that we will have it faxed back to you by end of tomorrow, because I need to have some information in order to fill those.
Yeah, Monday.
Yeah, Monday. I mean,
Monday?
yeah.
Yeah.
So if you get it back by Monday, you still get an A?
Thank you for
And a
that.
donut.
We can do Monday.
We can do Monday, but
We're
really,
calling you if we don't get it back.
Okay.
we really need it back because we're on a very, as you know, we're on a very tight time schedule, and we really want your input, but we really need to reach out. And if there are organizations in your city, if there's grassroots organizations like some green groups or whatever like that might be interested in walking and helping spread the word, if you can please make sure you include those organizations on these worksheets.
So then can assume that we can have, all of us are promising to get these information back to Jan's office by fax machines by Monday, close of business?
Yeah, like close of,
Credit for handing mine
like
now.
close of business.
Can you give me the fax number, please?
Oh, you got an A+.
You can fax it. You can fax it to me at 650-363-4034. You can obviously also scan and email it to
Right.
Jan.
Right. Okay, so
But we don't want, we can't wait 2 weeks for the next board meeting to get that back from you.
No, it's Monday, right? That's
Monday,
all right.
Monday.
Right.
Topic of marketing.
Thank you.
Yes.
What is the ask what in outreach? Is it awareness raising, we exist? Is it don't opt out? Is it opt up to Eco 100? What is our ask?
I think right now it's really focused on we exist. We're cheaper than PG&E for cleaner rates. Also, you can get 100% renewable energy for just a little more. So focus on awareness with a little bit of the opt-up.
And I would add, actually, to me, it's don't opt out. Give us a try, stay with us, don't opt out.
Oh, and, okay, next.
Go.
Okay. And actually, in response to what Joe said, he said the old folks asked him, well, why? Right? Well, why? Number one for old folks on fixed incomes, because it's cheaper.
Exactly.
Okay? And because it's in the long run, for your kids and their kids, it's the right thing. So,
And I have to say that Councilmember Silver's experience has been what we have found too with some of the older audiences. They just like to stay comfortable at where they are. And so that's a residential side customer that's also a target audience.
well, then the other thing about that, you don't have to do anything. You just let it happen, your bill will be lower. So,
Yeah, you don't have to do anything. So you have to make an effort to opt out. But if you want cleaner, cheaper, lower rates, don't do anything.
Yeah. Just,
How
there
easy
you go.
can it
Nobody
be?
just enjoy.
Go to Coma for training.
I'll trade. You can do San Mateo.
Joe?
So on the business side, trying to convince them, what if you have a high volume business? Because I know I do the accounting for where I work, and it fluctuate the PG&E bill during the year because it's a server room that requires so much energy. So is our rate like for the year, is it like flat or does it fluctuate during the whole year?
I think that's a decision of your board. I can say that Marin Clean Energy really focuses on stable rates in addition to having cheaper rates. That's something that their board decided was really important, especially for businesses, that they could say we're only changing our rates once a year, which they do. But your board can decide to maybe change it again in another 6 months if you wanted. So.
Are you done?
Are you talking about your bill or your rates? The bill.
The bill, I mean,
I mean, the bill can fluctuate because of how much
the season.
electricity you're using, right?
yeah, but it goes up during the winter, I mean, the summer.
That's because the rates are higher in
You're
the.
cooling your server room.
Yeah.
Well, no, I understand that. So even residential goes up during the summer?
Well, it depends on their electricity usage. In Colma, people probably don't need air conditioning because you have the fog that comes in every night.
Man, I opened
right?
the door.
But
I'm done. You can swap out with San Mateo now.
Okay. Elizabeth?
I just wanted to confirm that the walking campaign involves commercial only, not residential.
It is commercial only, yeah. We had to be strategic about how we use our person power, so.
And I think people are sensitive these days with crime fluctuations that if you're knocking at their doors, it's not as popular as it used to be. Yeah.
That's a good point, thank you.
Yeah.
Larry?
So Ann from the public made a really good point for my community. We have two very large apartment complexes. One of our council members is very interested to know if the residents of those apartment complexes will receive the benefits, or will the benefits go directly to the landlords?
who pays the bill? Who pays the utility bill?
Okay.
If it's the landlord, then he's providing cleaner, greener
Okay.
power to his or her tenants.
Cheaper.
Okay.
Cheaper. And he's saving money so he can reduce the rent.
Absolutely, right.
Right.
Okay. I told him I would carry the message.
Yeah, so if you need help from us at all to talk to him or explain it,
Okay.
happy to do so.
And the other is, just in terms of not only the commercial outreach, but the community outreach, is there any incentives for college or high school students to get involved with this effort where they might receive a stipend or they might receive community service credits or hours to participate in? Do you have someone in your office that could potentially manage that?
I can let Jan talk through it a little more. It is something we've talked about a lot. We unfortunately, school just let out, so we hit kind of the good period, but it might be good once we have more staffing in our office for that to be a really good project for fall when we get the high school and college people that want to volunteer.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking now for more feet on the street, so if there are people who are interested, who sustainability is important to them, if you can give us their names, we're happy to talk to them. And as far as when school starts, like I know the high school students need to get community service credit. So if they're interested in going out there and helping spread the word, we can try to put that together.
There's a program called Jobs for Youth that could be a great advocate and a partner in all of this. Just kind of make sure that we're engaging kids. There's actually a lot of kids who are presently unemployed this summer.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, we'll look into that. Thank you.
Okay.
Good idea, Larry. Ann?
I just actually want to give kudos to you, Kristen, because you actually did a presentation for Burlingame. Donna and I put the hotel managers together, and you did a presentation educating them. So we had some feedback that it was very positive, and they were quite interested in the information. I know some of them had contracts with others, but they want to reevaluate when their contract expires to possibly, switch over. So I appreciate that you took time to give that presentation to us.
Thank you. And that was actually a great workshop. It was a hotel sustainability workshop. And so they got all the hotels in Burlingame in one room, the main people of the hotel's general managers, to talk about a bunch of sustainability topics, including PCE. And it was a great captive audience. So if you need ideas for good sustainability things, that was a great workshop.
I actually have one more.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Larry.
So, we're getting ready to roll into the fall season. There's a lot of, we love our football here in San Mateo County, and with the Pop Warner High School, college, and pro, is there a strategy to kind of interact with those communities to make sure that we're branding, right, our message with the football community? Right? I mean, there's a lot of families that are going to be in the stands watching football games, whether it be Stanford, 49ers or, Pop Warner activities. I raised that point before around Little League Baseball. Banners are important at those community gathering places, and I would hope that we would get it, get in alignment with this upcoming fall season.
What I would suggest is on your worksheet, if you can put those groups down, if you have the Little League or the Pop Warner,
Well, we
and
all
you know
have-
who the,
yeah.
well, if you can add that to your list
Okay.
with the contact person, then we can work with you to reach out to them.
Yeah, great ideas.
Great discussion. Thank you very much, Kristen.
Thank you.
The next item, and I think this is, we are reaching about the end of the meeting, is the Citizen Advisory Committee report from Gordon.
Good evening, members of the board. For those who don't know me, I'm Gordon Tong, work with the County Office of Sustainability.
Gordon, can't hear you.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
It's the other mic, the hand. Where'd the handheld?
It's live.
Okay, I'll speak louder.
There you go.
I just want to give a brief report on the activities of the Citizens Advisory Committee that happened last Thursday, July 7th. They spoke on a lot of different topics. Two of the main ones were the results of the greenhouse gas free versus renewables white paper that you just had a presentation about, and feedback on the business outreach plan that you also just heard about. With regard to the greenhouse gas free versus renewable white paper, there were many different comments, but one of the main ones was that they suggested that we use renewable as it is a more familiar term for most residents, but we should definitely also include greenhouse gas free in any materials, because that's also a good number to note, even if it's not front and center. So if we could include that as a footnote even in any materials, that would be preferred, but definitely renewable is more familiar to most people, to most PG&E customers. However, others did think that having two numbers on the bill or two numbers in our materials would be confusing, so there's really no consensus in terms of how to market it specifically. Some think that we should include two numbers for to make more information available, but others thought it would be more confusing if we had those two numbers. There are also concerns over the fact that changing regulations and standards over greenhouse gas accounting can result in some of these numbers being decreased over time, especially when compared to PG&E. So if the standards change and then our numbers look worse than PG&E, then that could be bad if we're focusing on greenhouse gas free as something that we're promoting. There's also a comment about how in the future there would be more knowledge about what greenhouse gas free is. There might not be as much awareness of what greenhouse gas free means or carbon free, but with the growing awareness of climate change and those problems, greenhouse gas free will become more and more well known, and we should stick to mentioning greenhouse gas free to keep this up and to raise more awareness about that term. Lastly, there's a comment that how we market it, renewable versus greenhouse gas free, can be changed based on the context of different marketing materials. So for example, if we're limited in space, we can definitely just mention renewable. We can footnote greenhouse gas free if we need to, but based on these time constraints and space constraints, we should focus on renewable instead of greenhouse gas free. With regard to business outreach, there weren't too many comments, but there was general satisfaction with the plan that was presented. They're happy with the collateral, especially the web badges and window clings that businesses could use to promote Peninsula Clean Energy. And finally, they were very supportive in helping us market through their channels, PCE, so through social media and through their newsletters and things like that. They're very open to letting us access those channels to promote it. And that's the end of my report. I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Gordon.
Thank you, Gordon.
My comment is that it's great to have the Citizen Advisory Committee. It does provide us the feedback from their perspective, and there were some good points made, and I hope that whenever discussions that we will incur will that we keep these in mind, because that was the purpose of the committee, advisory committee. Let's move on to the next item. That was board members' reports. So I'll just go from my left to my right, and anything that you think is pertinent to the PCE that you might like to add to what we have discussed so far?
Sure, I got something real quick.
Nothing.
No reports?
In this first letter,
Yes.
general comment, there's no actual rates. And if we know what the rates are, it would save them a trip to going to the website to kind of give them an idea of what the average customer could expect to pay. Right now, it's pretty much saying, go to the website.
Thank you.
When we finished the letters, we didn't have the rates yet. So would you say that it would be acceptable if we just include, say, in the next one, that your rates will be 5%, that our rate will be 5% lower than PG&E? Because there's hundreds of rates.
No, right, yeah,
So
right.
to
It's just,
say that the actual rate is
no,
difficult.
understood, fine. Just
We do
wanted
say
to-
it's lower.
Just wanted to be able to show them what it is instead of saying it is lower, but what the average customer, residential customer is going to save will be
Okay.
shown in this letter that's going out to them for the first time.
Okay.
And is that the number, or were you just giving the 5%?
That is the
Percent. Right, Jen? We are just talking about 5%, not the rate itself.
Our rate, our generation rate is 5% less than PG&E's rate. But then when you see all those other things added in, which is the distribution rate and the PCEA, the total bill is not 5% less, it's maybe 2 to 3% less.
Thank you.
John?
That was exactly the issue I wanted to address, so.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? If not, so thank you very much. Now we come to the consent agenda. There are two items on that. One is the minutes of June 23rd meeting. And
You got that already.
I'm sorry?
You're all set.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, when the consent agenda was approved with the agenda.
oh, that was
Yes.
it?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Okay, so we don't have to do anything on that. Yes, please. There's a public comment. Please come in. 2 minutes.
Hi, I just wanted to add something. I'm Jan Butts. I've been active with the PCE effort for quite a while now and belong to Sierra Club as well as San Mateo Community Choice, which was an advocacy group for PCE. So in our last San Mateo Community Choice meeting, we were talking a lot about the impact of the exit or PCEA fee. And obviously that's going to have an impact on how people understand the 5% rate savings. So I wanted to know, I know that last board meeting we authorized Jan to be able to make quick responses to groups that are asking for support for protest or support for actions or statements regarding what we hope to see as far as legislative action or CPUC action. But I also was curious if there's any, if you can tell us if there's any awareness of direct challenges to the PCEA and what that looks like so far.
Jen, do you want to quickly respond to that? I think you already mentioned earlier about our current activity going on with respect to PUC.
Yeah, I mean, we're working with all of the other CCAs to have a united front to try to get the Public Utilities Commission to really look at this carefully. They say, well, the formula is right, but that may be, but what is it that goes in, what are the inputs to that formula, which are all confidential and unavailable for us. So we're continuing to
Yeah.
push on that. And I know, Pradeep, you've been involved in some.
Yeah, I've been involved. As a matter of fact, I just wanted to supplement what Jen just mentioned. Just to give you a little background on what happened. Originally, there was a discussion, what they call one-day workshop on PCEA issue, with Commissioner Flory, and a lot of us spoke and tried to clarify the situation. At the end of the meeting, there was a workshop report that came out, which was pretty ineffective. Basically, it said that most of the issues are not pertinent to PUC sort of agenda. But then it was clarified today, in today's meeting, that 4 commissioners started talking about that workshop and the report of the workshop, and they decided that no, it is an important issue. There's enough public pressure right now with CCA becoming bigger and bigger. So they have at least made the sentiment or awareness that the basic principles of PCEA, namely that the existing customers of PG&E should not be burdened by customers who are leaving, because they were part of the planning process of the PG&E and they had procured resources for those people who would not be there anymore. So that principle is okay, but in terms of actual execution, in terms of numbers and assumptions, which as Jen pointed out have been kept under covers because of PG&E's insistence on confidentiality, that may have been now modified a little bit, and we are working on it and we'll keep you posted. But it's a tough one and we'll try to find out. There are a number of things involved here. I just wanted to make sure that everybody understands. Right now, CCAs like us, like PCE, are relatively free from PUC control of what we do, where we procure our resources, how much we charge, etc. So that's a benefit that we have from our perspective. But on the other hand, because PUC does not have involvement with us, they don't take our concerns as seriously as they would of PG&E or San Diego Gas and Electric or Southern California Edison Company, because that's where most of their work comes from. So it's a balancing act. We don't want to give up too much in terms of our control. At the same time, we want PUC to be sympathetic to what we are saying. So a lot of good people with a lot of hard work are working on it, and I'm very happy to report that CCAs are becoming like a community. The MCE and all the other ones, they are all working together in a very cooperative fashion to figure out a strategy. So I just wanted to let you know that it's really a very hard-working community behind the scenes, and they're working both in PUC as well as in Sacramento. So with any other comments? If not, yes?
I have one question. Simple question.
But please be brief.
Well, you like brief, so I'm going to give you brief. So I have a question. Jan said at a previous executive committee meeting that the contract with Direct Energy was 5% below PG&E rates for power purchase. Excuse me. And also at the same meeting, they discussed the overhead of this group as being 10% of the power purchase costs. So I'd like to understand how the numbers are coming out to being a 5% reduction over PG&E for the customer when the overhead to run this organization is 10% of the power purchase, and the power purchase contract that I understood from Jan is only 5% less.
Yeah, the 5% refers to the rate. So the rate that we're charging our customers is 5% less than PG&E. The price that we're paying Direct Energy for the power, we have not disclosed, and we won't.
10% of that goes for running the organization, right?
If you look at our budget, the amount for everything, not just staffing, but everything, I don't remember what the exact percentage is, but you could calculate that. It's less than 10%. It's probably 4 or 5%.
Yeah.
Well, all I know is what you said at the executive committee meeting, so we'll see.
Thank you very much. All right. So if there's no other comment or questions, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you all very much.